Hey guys, Ruminating Reaper here. So I've just finished watching The Bluff on Prime Video. This is directed by Frank E. Flowers and is produced by the Russo brothers through their production company Agbo. And I was kind of curious about this one because it looked to give us something that we don't really get anymore. A brand new pirate movie. So obviously I was looking forward to it, had my fingers crossed that this would hopefully mark the return of pirate movies good and proper and hopefully start getting them on the big screen again. And plus, it does feature actors that I do like, notably Karl Urban. So I went in ready for a fun, swashbuckling action adventure. But does this mark a worthy return for the pirate movie? Let's find out. So the film follows Ursel, a woman living a quiet life in a tranquil colony in the Cayman Islands, with her young son Isaac and sister-in-law Elizabeth. One day, while her husband is out at sea, the island is taken over by a ruthless crew of pirates, led by the bloodthirsty Captain Francisco Connor, which soon draws Ursel back into her violent past as a brutal pirate known as Bloody Mary. Soon, she uses her skills to embark on a mission of revenge against Captain Connor and his crew. So, look, even at the best of times, pirate movies are a pretty rare thing, and they are even more rare when they don't feature Johnny Depp playing Jack Sparrow. And so, obviously, I was rooting for this one. I was hoping that this would be the big triumphant return that the pirate movie so deserves. And well, unfortunately, in the end, it's just pretty mid! I will say, on paper, there is a really, really good idea here. The sort of idea that, pirates aren't these swashbuckling heroes that you see in the movies. Rather, they're quite, ruthless, bloodthirsty criminals. And so, taking that and approaching it as a kind of violent action movie, akin to stuff like John Wick, The Raid, and Extraction, which, ironically, Agbo also produces, that's quite an inspired one. And I will say, the action scenes are where the film is at its strongest, because they are actually quite well done. The choreography is really solid, the action scenes here are really slick and have a certain fluidity and energy to them, and they're also actually quite bloody, with various like stabbings and slicings from stuff like cutlasses and daggers and like various shootings from the pistols. It is all very, very well done, even if that flow at times is frustratingly undercut by choppy editing. But it works because the two leads really commit. Priyanka Chopra Jonas, in particular, does a great job as Ursel, really throwing herself into this ferocious, resilient action movie lead. She does a great job here, as does Karl Urban as Captain Connor, having the time of his life as this larger-than-life villain, doing a real proper "arr" pirate accent. Yeah, he is great, and wherever he goes, he's always a real fun screen presence. And the film, also to its credit, is a surprisingly good-looking movie as well. There's some points where the cinematography actually looks really good for a streaming movie. There's some vibrant, sunrises and sunsets, and like, particularly like some use of like the god rays coming in through the forest. It is actually at times a quite beautiful looking film, and the sort of rugged, sort of old timey pirate sets also do look great too, and very much do bring the time and place to life with in a very colorful way. Unfortunately, though, beneath all of that, yeah, there's just not really a lot to latch on to. Because, for one, the story here is painfully generic. This is very much that, main character is drawn out from their quiet life back into their violent past to get their revenge once and for all type deal that we have seen done countless times in like pretty much every action movie post John Wick. And the problem here is that this feels really to find a new angle. Pirate movie thing aside, of course, yeah, it doesn't bring anything particularly fresh or new to the table. And so the problem here is that there's no real surprises to be found in its various plot turns. Chances are you've likely seen at least one of its plot points in another similar action movie, or indeed in another pirate movie. And so, yeah, so as a result, the story is hard to engage with because there's just nothing particularly novel on display here. Not helping matters is the fact that the characters here, by and large, are pretty one note. Basically, feeling like they're there sort of out of obligation rather than because there's any organic story related reasons for them to be there. They're just kind of there because, oh, well, plot dictates this must happen. It sort of just feels like it's ticking off boxes on a checklist rather than giving them compelling, fleshed out arcs. And so, yeah, it is hard to connect to these characters emotionally, and it's especially frustrating because we have otherwise talented actors like Tamura Morrison utterly wasted in completely thankless roles that are far below what they deserve. And so, yeah, all in all, is the whole thing just feels kind of distant and sort of hard to properly connect to on an emotional level. And so it's a film that is just kind of difficult to engage with. And also, for what I was saying earlier about a lot of some of the cinematography looking surprisingly good, there's another, for every really beautiful looking shot here, there's one where digital filmmaking really strikes here, and the sort of artificial sheen of being shot on green screens with a lot of digital additions really does stick out, and gives it that sort of overly glossy artificial look that a lot of streaming movies have. Again, for the most part, the film really does take advantage of the inherent natural beauty of its Cayman Island setting, but then every once in a while, something really fake and overly polished will stick out and be like, "Hey, remember this is a streaming movie," and yeah, that's definitely a bit disappointing. Hell, even Henry Jackman's score is pretty forgettable, and that's saying a lot because this guy normally does cracking scores, but you can tell here he's just kind of phoning it in, and that's such a waste because if a Henry Jackman score for a pirate movie done well would absolutely go hard. But yeah, in the end, much like everything else in this film, it's just pretty forgettable and just kind of there. And it obviously all builds to what should be a gripping, edge of your seat, tense final confrontation between Ursel and Captain Connor. This should be, the stakes should be at their highest. This clash between these two characters, the whole thing's been building to. But it doesn't land like it should because, honestly, I had just checked out long before that point, and clearly a lot of the filmmakers did too. Yeah, I really wanted to love this, and it's such a shame. Yeah, the mid streaming movie curse strikes again. Overall, while The Bluff does feature committed lead performances and some solidly made action sequences, it's not enough to overcome how painfully uninspired and generic the story and characters are, resulting in a largely forgettable experience. Out of 10, The Bluff gets a 5. So, let me know down in the comments, have you seen The Bluff? What did you think of it? Would you like to see more pirate movies come to screen in the future? And what did you make of the two lead performances? Let me know all that down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.